And let's start off with a little bit of waders. So just a warm up for the shoulders. Tag your elbows in. Come into stance. Why not? Toes pointing ahead. Find your neutral pelvis while you're here. Hips back over your heels. Aiming for those thumbs to meet the wall behind you. If that's even possible, go nice and slow. We're not bouncing through any of these moves, just to mention that one more time. Working on that external shoulder rotation. Let your ribs just rest here so that they're not thrusting forward to help you get a sense of going backwards, but just let your ribs be where they are and let that movement come into your shoulders. Nice. And then grab a block, a yoga block, or your half dome. And I'll just mention some things that you might need today. A strap, a hat, something like this half dome, maybe some yoga blocks. And we're going to start off with just a little bit of elbow pit rotations. So anytime you're working on your hands and knees, we're mindful that we're going to rotate the elbow pits facing upward in this case. The wrists are nice and resting on the sides of the block, so that work isn't in the wrist, but that work is in the shoulders and elbows. Just a couple times, moving in and out. Get some water, make sure you got something to drink as we move through this. Try to do most of this without too many props. So if you've got a yoga mat, that's great for you to work on. If you don't, that's okay too. Blanket for your knees or blocks for your knees. If your knees are cranky like mine or have metal in them and it just doesn't feel comfortable kneeling, make moves like that accessible to you. Come on down for side bent sit. So we're just going to practice some other ways of sitting here. Mindful of how you go down. You might choose to come down in a lunge shape. Remember that the up-down part of these classes is also part of this Be Stronger training. Be able to lift ourselves off the ground just whenever we need to, no big deal. Tuck your toe behind if your knee here has any pressure on it. And we're just gonna try to sit upright. Just notice like what this posture of the legs in 90-90 asks of your pelvis, right? So maybe you can only do it if you're leaning forward here. See, you could even support it with a block so that you could find your way to neutral upper body torso. So take a breath in and out in this position. See what you can relax. Can you get your sit bones down to the mat? I'm gonna ask that as an aspirational question because my back sit bone is not on the mat, just to let you know. It's hard to see, but it's not all the way down there. I don't have that somehow in me today unless I tuck my back foot. There we go. Got a little bit more access to this shape. And then we're getting a little stretch here. So we just sit upright, minding your lumbar curve. That neutral lumbar curve is going to be a big deal as we move through all of these exercises today. When you're ready, flip it over to the other side. You might find some really different kinds of reactions in your hips and pelvis and torso. Just on the other side, it's very common for us to have hips of different sorts of tension and ability and availability of moves. Breathing in, breathing out. And then let's just mobilize this. We're gonna go ahead and you can put your hands behind you, open up and shift to the other side. I'm just gonna turn to the side to see what that is like. So going nice and slow. See if you can not lift both knees at once, but instead the lead knee lifts first. And then when you have to bring the trailing knee along, go ahead and get that nice big stretch through your inner thigh. Go ahead and breathe. Take nice deep breaths here. Just gonna go nice and slow. Opening up, just finding where that mobility is in the hips. If this feels like a piece of cake to you and nothing's happening much, try lifting your hands up and make it a core exercise. You could try that. If you do that, I guarantee you'll probably be walking of forward. Your hips are gonna lift and move out. And again, not necessary at all. Let's just do a couple of those with a little bit of a sweep. So the next time you come over, go ahead and twist and reach to the back. Take a nice deep breath. You might choose an exhaled breath as you reach. There's no wrong way to breathe except to just hold your breath and put a lot of pressure on your pelvic floor and respiratory diaphragms. Let's not do that. All right, rocking frog, Heidi's new friend. Start in quadruped, widen your knees. You can choose to bring your feet together or just have them in line with your knees, that's okay. Come back into this prone squat and make sure that when you do that, that you're minding your lumbar curve there. Reach your hands out, nice big starfish hands, and then push forward using the power of your legs. And then push back using the power of your arms. You could keep your head in a head ramp. You could not let your ribs flare out. So this is not a back bend right here. This is like a little mini plank. Only coming back as far as you can manage to hold on to that nice neutral lumbar curve. It's not the end of the world if you come all the way back and round over, not at all. But if you want to be in alignment and have, you know, the most nutritious rocking frog you can have, that's the alignment cue. You can have your toes flat if you want, or tucked under, your choice on that. We're aiming for 8 to 10 repetitions here, rocking frog. And sleeping cat while we're at it. We're gonna end up in sleeping cat pose. Make sure you're breathing. And see if you can go ahead already and rotate your elbow pits as you come forward. Press into the mat with your hands. And maybe one more. We're going for the rollovers. So if you have a cat, you can grab your cat and roll over. You can start on your side, on your back, on your stomach. Reach out. And then with the power of your core, maybe you find a way to flip over. This is baby development stuff you probably haven't practiced in a while. Using that core. Notice that if you reach out with your fingers and your toes, you're creating a nice long line of activation there. And that can help you find muscles that'll help you roll over. Let's roll over, I don't know, 3 or 4 times from back to front and front to back. Just getting a chance to kind of play with all the angles. And today we're just going to keep reaching long. You might do this stretch in bed before you get out of bed too. You know, think about where you can drop these little warm-ups in. Great.